Hey, I'm Brian. Welcome back to the Disturbing Illusion channel, and a disturbing illusion it is. This right here is the House Doge Committee hearing where Representative Jasmine Crocket accuses, or at least hints that, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene committed insider trading, and this led to a pause on the House floor to see if her words would be taken down after an objection was raised by Nancy Mace. Check this out, and keep in mind, each and every one of these political parasites is making $174,000 a year as base pay plus benefits. And look at all the empty chairs in the room. They're supposed to be talking about the inclusion of transgender athletes in women's sports, and they veer off into the weeds, and this is how it happens.
I'd like to enter into the record a New York Times article entitled, "The GOP Plans to Cut Medicaid Would Save Billions But Leave More Uninsured," Budget Office says. That's what we're actually outraged
Without objection,
about.
so ordered. I now recognize
Also, I
Mr.
want to
Burchett
point out that the
from
most
Tennessee.
powerful oversight Republican
I now
in
you're not
Congress
recognized. Ms. Stansbury, you're not recognized.
talking
I'm
about
sorry, we're going to
fencing
Crocket.
while they're trying to cut Medicaid.
Actually, Ms. Stansbury, you're not recognized. I now recognize Ms. Crocket from Texas.
Thank you so much. It is so interesting that I just learned today at 44 years old that the Republicans are going to be the ones to save women. The same Republicans that have been, say, for Women's Reproductive Acts, or the same Republicans that have stood for the Equal Rights Act, which would hopefully get women to equal pay, or the same Republicans that just this Congress voted for the SAVE Act, which we know would disenfranchise women from even being able to vote.
The federal government shouldn't be involved in any of this. According to the Declaration of Independence, the only legitimate reason for government, which by the way doesn't exist, because if you believe government exists, then you believe somebody like Jasmine Crocket or Marjorie Taylor Greene have a higher claim over your life and property than you, to the point where they can write down words on pieces of paper and you have to follow them. And if you don't follow them, then you should be punished for not following Jasmine Crocket and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Do you really believe that? Do you believe in this concept of authority? But they're going to just sit here and waste our time, waste taxpayer money talking about nonsense. And the Declaration of Independence made it very clear. If there was such a concept called government, then the only legitimate purpose of government is to protect your life, liberty, property, and your pursuit of happiness. They shouldn't be involved in marriage. They shouldn't be involved in transgender, sexual ideology, DEI, any of that.
But let me tell you, they are our saviors, and so I am so happy to be here today, because otherwise I would not have an idea that I had a savior in the Republicans. So let's also talk about the fact that it's only been 100 days, 100 long, terrible days for anybody that absolutely believes in reality, because what we know is that they have terminated staff responsible for enforcing federal protections against sex-based discrimination. Sounds like that's pro-women. Or they've cut funding for domestic violence survivor services. Sounds pro-woman to me. Or they've prohibited funding for research affecting women's health. That definitely sounds pro-women to me. Essentially, they closed the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights. Again, sounds like they are fighting for us. And instead of providing oversight over these actions, congressional Republicans have been working to execute one of the most aggressive anti-women legislative agendas in history. And yet, they're here today trying to convince the American people that discriminating against trans people is somehow the only way to protect women. This hearing has nothing to do with improving government efficiency. It's another attempt by Republicans to distract from their demonic and disastrous policies that are making it more difficult for Americans to make ends meet.
A Democrat condemning Republicans for demonic, disastrous policies. Guys, they are playing for the same team owner. This is WWE. This is trying to get the audience to pit one person against another person, a group of people against another group of people. This is what politics is in its essence. And we're seeing it play out on this Doge committee hearing floor.
So, Miss Goss Graves, I want to play a game. It's called Trump or Trans. You ready?
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to tell me whether or not it is Trump or trans people that are responsible. You understand?
Got it.
Okay, very good. The first one, gutted medical research.
Trump.
Kidnapping Americans and sending them to foreign countries, aka deporting them.
Trump.
Driving us into a recession.
Trump.
Increasing the cost of everything.
Trump.
Waging an idiotic tariff war.
Trump.
Harming farmers.
Trump.
Ignoring the Constitution.
Trump.
Proposing to take away Social Security.
Trump.
Cutting health care.
Trump.
Firing government workers who keep our country safe.
Trump.
Encouraging an environment of hate
Firing government workers who keep our country safe.
and divisiveness.
You don't keep our country safe. You don't keep Americans safe by implementing something like, I don't know, the Patriot Act or the CARES Act, where Trump signed $6.2 trillion of debt into existence with the stroke of one signature, or the affordable health care with a $2 billion price tag on one single website.
Trump.
Thank you so much.
You could have done the exact same thing for Obama, Biden. Yeah, these are all policies that narcissistic, psychopathic megalomaniacs will always do when you vote them into office and they grab the ring of power. Always.
This committee could be engaged in actual oversight of fraud, waste, abuse, and mismanagement. So let's talk about waste. Like Trump's plan to spend almost $100 million for his little birthday parade, or how he spent 25% of his first 100 days golfing, costing taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. In fact, it's a little bit over 30 million at our last estimation. In fact, President Trump is on pace to spend more than $1 billion of taxpayer dollars just on golfing.
If that's true, and I don't doubt that it is, Obama did it. I don't think Biden did it that much because he couldn't. He's a very frail old man. Probably tripped getting into the golf cart, or tripping getting out of the golf cart, or walking over the hole, or talking to some ducks. But if that's true, presidents have wasted millions upon millions, tens of millions of dollars on these golf excursions. It does cost taxpayer money to do this kind of stuff. And that's what a megalomaniac does. That's what a narcissist does. Whether you're an Obama or Trump, it doesn't matter. So all of these points aren't bad. If this is true, it's horrible.
Yet the Republicans have been silent. So they must
Look at his belly sticking out right here.
spending taxpayer dollars.
Look, none of the Republicans are paying attention. Everybody's on their phone. Marjorie Taylor Greene has her back turned.
On the president's golfing trips is more important than providing health care.
This should actually be appalling. If true, this should be appalling to every single congressman, every single senator. But because there's partisanship, because there's cognitive dissonance, because people are drinking the Kool-Aid of their own master, their political master, and because they don't want to be politically sacrificed on the altar of Democrat or Republican expediency, they keep their mouth shut.
To their constituents. And when I talk about constituents, we're going to talk about the ones on this committee. So if we look at Texas 26, 39,000 children look to potentially lose their Medicaid with the cuts that they are about to vote on for reconciliation. 88,000 in Georgia 3, 68,000 in Missouri 7, 79,000 in Tennessee 2, 86,000 in South Carolina 4, 50,000 in Texas 04, 85,000 in Texas 27, and in Georgia 14, 111,000. And if you add that up just on this committee, we have 606,000 kids that are relying on us to do right by them. And instead, we playing these crazy games because we worried about 10 trans folk that are in sports right now in college. I wasn't elected to be engaged in these fights. I was elected to make sure that those kids, the kids that they are about to neglect with these terrible votes that they're about to take, I was elected to protect them and to make sure that they could grow up and have all the opportunities. But let's keep.
Hey, Jasmine, I got a question for you. When those 608,000 kids, what was that? Was that 606,000 kids when they grow up? Are you going to want to ban AR-15s and AK-47s and high-capacity magazines and put especially high taxes on certain ammunition? Are you willing to forget about that? Do you want them to be empowered? Do you want those kids when they grow up to be empowered with whatever firearm they want? Would you be willing to back off of your desire for a universal background check or closing the gun show loophole, for example? No, of course not. because you don't care about protecting them. And what would protect them more than anything is to empower them to get out of their way so that they can be free to obtain and possess whatever kind of firearm they want. But you're not going to do that, are you, Jasmine? Nope, you sure aren't.
Let's look at fraud. We could investigate whether the White House and the members of this subcommittee engaged in insider trading and market manipulation. Maybe it's a coincidence that the chairwoman brought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock the day before Trump announced a 90-day pause on tariffs. But I guess we'll never know. So finally, let's talk about abuse. Like how
she said that very, very carefully. And I'll show you how this comes into play in a second, because Nancy Mace is going to go, hey, we want her words that implicate you in committing crimes to be stricken from the record. She's going to pause the entire hearing for this, Marjorie Taylor Greene is.
how the Republicans have let
By the way, this chart right here says that she invested in Palantir. Here's Palantir stock right now. Supposedly she bought it on April 8th. On April 8th, it was $77.32 when Trump made his announcements and all the tariffs and everything. It went up as high as $124.28. And according to this graph right here, it said that it went up 48% in the 3 weeks that she made her stock purchase, which, if there is insider trading, you got to admit that's pretty cruddy, because none of the rest of us have that kind of information. So basically, when there's a trade, there's a loser and a winner, and she made sure that, or Marjorie Taylor Greene, if she did do this, put herself in a position to profit handsomely. But don't a lot of congressmen and senators do that?
Elon steal data of Americans and his competitors to make himself even richer. Look, don't let these hearings distract you from their destruction. This is rage baiting instead of conducting oversight over the issues that Americans actually care about. And with that, I will yield.
The gentlelady's time is expired.
Madam Chair,
I now recognize.
Madam Chair, I move down to take down her words impugning you, as saying you committed a crime.
I didn't do that.
Without objection, so ordered.
Say what? That's not.
See here. The committee
Chair.
will
Point of
suspend. The committee will
parliamentary inquiry.
suspend.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
We're going to go with hers first, right?
Madam Chair.
The committee will suspend. The member will state the words she wishes taken down.
Well, actually, Madam Chair, the words were actually not made in a
The
timely
committee
manner.
will suspend.
Do you have the exact?
I don't have the exact words.
Okay. The words alleging a criminal act by the chairwoman.
What words?
We will suspend. We will have
The committee will suspend.
So they suspend the committee to find the right words. And the words were, this is her exact words, Jasmine Crockett's words, let's look at fraud. We could investigate whether the White House and the members of this subcommittee engaged in insider trading and market manipulation. Maybe it's a coincidence that the chairwoman bought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock the day before Trump announced a 90-day pause on tariffs, but I guess we'll never know. Those are the exact words that she said with regard to any possible implication that there was insider trading going on. So now the hearing resumes after about 20 minutes.
Will come to order. Miss Mace, I'd like to ask, we've looked at the words that were said, and it's borderline whether it's parliamentary and goes along with the rules, saying could and accusing the White House and members of this committee of crimes is borderline. So in interest of the hearing and our witnesses that are here today defending themselves against the mentally ill biological males that have invaded their sports, and in the interest of making sure that we stay on track instead of getting sidetracked into Democrats' nonstop fake accusations, I just ask, thank you for bringing up the motion, and ask if you
Yes,
like.
Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, I now recognize. She already did, Ms. Stansbury. I now recognize Mr. Burchett from Tennessee for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair.
So we have a battle between Jasmine Crocket and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Do you think Marjorie Taylor Greene and other congressmen and senators engage in market manipulation and insider trading? Do you think it matters? If they do engage in that and they're caught, do you think that they should be punished? If you do think they should be punished, what do you think they should be punished with? Do you think this is a complete dog and pony show that doesn't do Americans any good as they bleed the American tax cattle of $174,000 every year plus benefits for each and every one of the base salaried senators and congressmen? Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought, please, in the comment section below. If you do, it really gets the algorithmic juices flowing, and it really helps the channel grow, which it ain't growing too fast because people don't want to hear this kind of stuff. They'd rather be left, or they'd rather be right, and they'd rather be pacified with a lie. So like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, grab a shirt. One day you'll become hopefully we'll get the channel membership. I don't know why YouTube's dragging their feet on that, but I really appreciate you guys being here, and I will see you in the next video.